Welcome to the December 10th, 2024 City of Broussard Council meeting. Please remember to adjust your microphones and speak into them so you can be heard clearly on our broadcast. If anyone from our audience would like to make a comment on an item listed on our agenda, please fill out a blue card located in the back of the room and turn it into our city clerk. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes. Please rise for the pledge. Please welcome Pastor Marty Daracell from Our Savior's Church to lead us in our prayer.
Thank you, Mayor. Bow your heads. Loving and gracious Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus. Without him, none of this is even possible. God, I thank you for the design and gift of government. I thank you for each and every city official and employee, the mayor and our first responders here in the city of Broussard. I thank you for the wisdom and the guidance that you bring them. And God, I pray that as they seek to do your will according to what's best for the citizens of Broussard, that you would bless them and their families according to your glorious riches. We love you and we thank you for what you've done here in Broussard, what you're doing now, God, and we look forward to what you will do in and through these great people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Item 2.1, acceptance of the minutes of the November 26, 2024 meeting. Do we have a motion to accept?
Second.
Question.
The minutes were supplied in the council's packet. Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Do council discussion?
Question, no.
District 1? Yes. District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yay.
At large? Motion approved.
Item 3.1 is going to be pushed till the end of the meeting, which will be a report by Mr. Craig Romero. So we'll move on to item 3.2, Mr. Burton Calder, the 2023-2024 City of Broussard Audit Report. Welcome, Burton.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. And, we're here tonight to review the audit for the last fiscal year ending June 30th of 2024. And I'm going to try and hit some of the high spots and answer questions that you may have. I'm not going to go through this 90-page report, but we're going to hit some of the pages of it. And you also have a 4-page handout that Tina has given you from us that I'm going to be referring to that kind of brings things together like we've done in the past. So it makes it easier to look at the high spots. Let me first start by saying we had some verbal comments. We met with the administration on them, and also Tina and Kristen, and some of the things that weren't serious that we had to put it in the report, which is good. There's a couple of things in the report that we had to put in there, one of which is because Karen is no longer here as the CPA. So, it's one of those, it's an accounting type thing. If you don't have a CPA on staff that can draft a report, which she could, then we have to make this comment. It's nothing serious. It's normal thing that the legislative auditor is accustomed to seeing. So that being said.
Burton, can I add to that? So the choice for the city was to allow you to do the report.
Correct.
Since we didn't have a CPA. And
put the finding in there.
correct.
Or hire
But in
somebody else.
the finding, it says that we reviewed it from a financial position and it was less expensive to allow you to do the report.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a cost-benefit type of relationship. And that's what most of our clients will do, because not too many in your size would have necessarily the person on staff. So nothing serious, very good report as far as that goes. That being said, let's go ahead and look at page 58 of the big blue book. You should have two books. One is for those procedures we have to do for the legislative auditor, but it's the larger report, the regular audit report that I want to refer to. On page 58 is the revenues and expenses for the water, sewer, and garbage funds. And I'm going to start with garbage over on the far right. Revenues last year in the garbage department were $1,531,000. This year they're $1,662,000. for this year. And the expenses, if you look towards the bottom of the page, the majority of which is the garbage collection expense, of course, and some miscellaneous other office expenses. But basically, last year was $1,545,000. We showed a slight loss of $14,000 in last fiscal year. This year, the expenses are $1,683,000. We're showing a slight loss of $21,000. Again, you want to try and break even or make a slight profit, preferably in here. So you're close to it, and I know that y'all go up every time that the provider goes up on the service, but maybe we need to look at going up just a little bit more so that it's not negative.
Well, we did, last year, the council, approved a mechanism for us to do that because in previous years, we had waited till our budget time. But our increase comes from the garbage provider in April or so.
Right.
So we were losing a few months and that was adding up. So now, with the new rule we have, new procedure, we can go up at the same time.
Good.
As a provider. Would you agree with that, Kristen and Tina?
Yeah, that would work out a lot better because we lose those 3 months.
We won't be behind by 3 months. So that should solve it for us instead of, an increase in the amount that we have to work
I
out.
would speculate, Ray, that probably that's the reason why it's a $21,000 deficiency, is because we're 3 months behind and a lag before we adjust it, so that should solve that issue. The sewer department, very, very pleased to see y'all gonna be very pleased to see what we have here. And again, it's attributable to what y'all have been doing and the previous administrations have been doing in adjusting these on a periodic basis to keep up with the inflation and also to make up for the deficiency. In sewer department, last year, the revenues were $1,511,000. This year, they're $1,877,000. The expenses towards the bottom of the page, $2,696,000 last year, $2,718,000. So they're pretty much flat. They're up about $20,000 in expenses, but the revenues are up about $300,000. So consequently, our loss in the sewer department was $1,185,000 last year. It's $841,000. And if y'all look, you see depreciation and also depreciation on right-to-use assets, which is your lease assets that you have. If you look, there's two numbers, 927 and 45,900. That's a total of $973,000. And that 973, if I add that back, because that's depreciation, y'all are, for the first time since I've been doing your work, you're now cash positive in the sewer, which we had talked about it last year when we presented the report, that we felt it was going to be that way, but this proves it out. And you're positive by about $125,000 from a cash flow standpoint, which is phenomenal from where we were years and years ago, and y'all have slowly brought it back up. But we want to continue our trend of what we're doing. My suggestion is to continue that. I think y'all adjust every 6 months, which is fine, and it definitely you're seeing the results. The water, still pretty consistent to where we've been in the past. Last year, the revenues were $3,141,000. This year, they're $3,285,000. The expenses, on the other hand, went up from $3,516,000 to $3,685,000. The biggest item that jumped is, if you look towards the middle of the page, materials and supplies. In the water department, they jumped from $607,000 to $840,000. So that's the biggest item that increased here as to why the total operating expenses did go up. But still, you're at $399,994 on the deficiency. Last year, we were at $375,000. But if you add back the depreciation, it's $518,000. It's $461 plus the $57,000. So you're positive again by about $120,000 over the from a cash flow standpoint. So both of them are up, are over in a cash flow from about 125 to 120 in the water, so a total of about $250,000. And like I said, this is the first time that I have seen this here in the city of Broussard. So we're making progress, and we just need to keep up the trend. Okay, on the totals for the utility operations in the city of Broussard, last year we brought in $6,184,000. This year we brought in $6,824,000 if someone had garbage, sewer, and water services. Now the expenses, they went up from $7,759,000 to $8,087,000. Our loss went from $1,574,000 down to $1,262,000. Had we not had that increase in the materials and supplies in the water, we would have had a loss of about $1,000,000. And if you look at it, your depreciation is $1,388,000 plus 103. So it's $1,500,000 of depreciation. So we're cash positive, as I said, by about 250,000 between all three, which is great. So any questions on the numbers? I'm going to go through it on a per customer per month. It gives you a much more relative type of relationship to see what we're doing on a monthly basis. Any questions on this page? Okay, if you would, go to the second page of my handout. And again, y'all have seen this before. It's a per customer per month type of arrangement, and we show the number of customers. For example, in water, last year we had 6,096 customers. In 22, we had 5,889. This year we're at 6,415 customers, up about 300 customers over the prior year. Your income, including connections and penalties and other, but it's total. Total income last year per customer per month was $42.95. This year it averaged out even less at $42.68. But look at your expenses. They went down slightly in water from $48.07 to $47.88 per customer per month. Operating income went from $512 to $520. The depreciation added back is pretty much the same at $6.74. We made $1.50 per customer per month this year. We made $1.60 per customer last year. And before that, in 22 and 21, we had losses. We had $1.76 in 22 and $1.92 in 21. On the sewer side, the number of customers increased from 4,791 to 5,091. The service income and the connections included total income went from $26 per customer per month to $30.74 per customer per month. You held the expenses on a per customer per month basis, went down slightly from $46.91 to $44.51. And so your operating loss went down with increase in revenues per customer per month and reduction in expenses. It went down from $20.62 down to $13.77. And you can see what 21 and 22 were, $23 and $20 lost per customer per month. This year, the depreciation added back is $15.94. So our positive cash flow is $2.17 per customer per month. And last year was a loss of $3.86. So a great improvement, basically a swing of $5 per customer per month. I'm going from a $3.86 loss to a $2 profit. So a great turnaround there. We just got to keep up that trend. And y'all have been able to do it for the past few years to get an improvement every year. Now, on the garbage, 5,337 customers. The income was $25.95 this year. The expenses were $26.28. We lost 33 cents per customer per month. Last year was $24.81, and we cost us $25.04. We lost 23 cents per customer per month. And in 22, we made 33 cents. Over at the bottom corner on the right side, the totals for the three services, $86 is what a customer was paying last year. They paid $93 this year. Plus, I add back the connections, penalties, and other. It's $99.37 is what we're realizing. Last year was $94.05. Our operating expenses went down slightly in total to $120 per customer per month, down to $118.67 per month. The loss went from $25.97 down to $19.30. So it went down about $6 per customer per month, which is great on the loss. And of course, our depreciation is added back at about $23. So you made $3.38 per customer per month on a cash flow basis. Last year we lost $2.45. The year before that we lost $4.50, and the year before that we lost $5.41. You can see the progression; it's steady, and it's no question about it. So again, I want to emphasize: keep up what you're doing because it is working. Any questions on this? Okay, hearing none, what I'd like to do now is to go to the page 60, not 68, hold on just a second. It's gonna be on page 60, which is the recreation, the Park and Recreation Fund, for St. Julian Park, and also Arsenal Park, we have some expenses for it. This gives you a comparative number. We have a slight increase in revenues. It went up from 626,000 to 715,000. I say slight, it's 89,000. Percentage-wise, it's good, to go up from 626 to almost 726 at 715. Now, the expenses, on the other hand, those did go up, and that includes depreciation, went from 2,780,000 to 3,111,000. So it's up $331,000. 100,000 of that, if you look up at the top, is in the form of repairs and maintenance. Went from 154,000 to 257,000. Also, salaries went up from 639 to 752,000. Those are the two bigger drivers of the increase in the expenses. Then we're gonna add, as for the St. Julian expenses, Arsenal Park was about 25,000 this year, and last year the expenses were 33,000. The loss from operations went from 2,186,000 to 2,421,000. So it's up about $240,000 from last year to this year in the loss. Then we're gonna subtract from that, or add to this loss, the interest that we're paying on the bonds. And our bonded debt in this fund is down to about $23 million, okay? Remember, we started, I wanna say, at about 37 million or so, 38 possibly. We're down to about 23 million, right now. And the loss before capital contributions and transfers, remember, we subsidized it with some of the half-cent sales tax that you're collecting. The total loss last year was 2,966,000. This year's 3,137,000. We transferred in last year 3,140,000, and we ended up with a slight surplus of $200,000. This year we transferred slightly less at 3,013,970, and our loss in that operation was 123,000. That includes the depreciation of 977. So if you add that back for the depreciation on the park, basically after transfers, you were positive by about $800,000 in that park. And I was talking to Jamie earlier, we don't know how much impact it has on the community and the people that visit here and go to the park and spend money here in the city. We don't know how to measure that. He told me he's starting to look at some stuff that gives him somewhat of a barometer, which is great. But there's no doubt it generates some extra dollars here. And your sales tax, half-cent sales tax fund is still very healthy. Even after these transfers, we still left with about $4.7 million in it. So we're in good shape on that fund as well. Any questions on the park operations? Okay, hearing no questions, let's go to page 1 of my handout. And page 1 is the total operations for the city of Broussard compared to the final budget that was adopted as amended, as you recall. And then we have 3 of the prior years indicated here of actual numbers. So you've got 4 years of actual, 1 year compared to budget, the most recent year. Let's start with the tax revenues. That's sales tax, no property tax, but it does include some franchise taxes. 22,889,000 was what was budgeted, came in very close to that. 22,987,000, 97,000 more than we thought. And last year we were at 22,500,000. You've had a slight increase in your sales tax revenues. They're up about 2% over the prior year, but it is an increase. We have some cities that are flat, some that are down slightly right now in this economy. So yours was up about 2% for sales tax. Licenses and permits are very close. Budget was 2,142,000. They were 2,183,000. The actual number coming in last year was 1,904,000. So a good increase over the prior year and very close to budget. Intergovernmental revenues, which is mainly grant revenues, revenues coming from the state, or the Fed, but mainly from the state right now. And, that was 3,511,000 on the budget, came in higher than that, 3,724,000. Last year was 5,906,000. Remember, last year was the ARPA monies. It was 4 point some odd $1 million that we were recognized as income in ARPA of that 5.9 million. Utility fund charges for services budgeted 6,590,000, came in slightly less than that to 6,369,000. That's 221,000 less than we thought. And last year was 6,184,000. We just looked at those actual numbers. On the Parks and Rec, we budgeted 629. That was pretty close to what it was last year. We did better than that, 715,000. We're 86,000 more than we thought. And last year, as I said, was 626. Fines and forfeits budgeted 530, came in at 528,000, $1,600 less than budget. Last year was only 360,000. Interest income, we budgeted 1,125,000. We came in at 893,000, below budget by 232,000. But look at what the number was last year, only $300,000. A lot of your money is now invested in LAMP, which you're getting about 5% return. And so it's definitely been a wise move to do that. Miscellaneous revenues, 825,000. Budget came in at 913,000. Last year was only 402,000. Total revenues for the city of Broussard budgeted $38,243,000. We actually brought in $38,316,000, $72,000 more than what we thought, 72,000 off of budget. Last year was 38,198,000. That's, if you look at the very bottom of the page, the second to last line item says revenues variance from budget, 0.19%. That's phenomenal. So great job, Kristen. No question about it. I know we had several budget sessions that we had. Everybody had some input, and the department heads did a good job as well. But you were the point person on all of this, so I want to commend you. You did a great job with that, and we'll look at the expenses in a minute, and those were definitely within the budget tolerance. So let's look at the expenses. How did we spend the monies? Administration, we budgeted 3.2 million. We spent 3,295,000, 51,000 more than we thought. Last year was 2.7 million. Economic development budgeted 382,000, spent 388,000. Last year was 329. Public safety, budgeted 4.9 million, spent 4,881,000. This is only for operations. That's 50,000 more than we thought. Now, if you look at it, you can see the police operations have increased. We're seeing this with some clients as well, that, you know, as the city grows, you've got to have the public safety and the police protection. You can see way back in 21, we were at 3.4 million. Then it went to 3.7 million. Then we had 4.2 million, and this year 4.8 million. So the last couple of years, we've had about a $500,000 increase in the police department services. Now, in the fire department, we budgeted 2,069,000. We actually spent 2,304,000, 234,000 more than we thought. Last year we spent 1,000,008, and before that we spent 1,000,005. So you can see a progression in the public safety for the fire department as well. Streets and drainage, budgeted 4.8 million, spent 4,886,000, 84,000 more than we thought. And last year we spent 3,963,000. The year before that, 3,458,000. Again, the streets and drainage, you're seeing an increase also because I think, obviously, the city is in a growth mode. Culture and recreation, that's minimal, $11,000. That doesn't include, that's just other stuff that you do relative to culture here in the city, not part of the recreation fund. Utility fund expenses, we budgeted 8,003,000 to be spent 8,087,000, 83,000 more than we thought. And you can see Parks and Rec is next. We budgeted 2.9 million, 2,990,000, spent 3,136,000. That's 146,000 more than we thought. Principal retirement on the debt service, budgeted 1,123,000. Actually spent 1,278,000. That's 154,000 more than we thought. And last year we spent 1,323,000. Interest on the debt, budgeted 573, spent 611. $38,000 more than we thought. Now, capital outlay, you had budgeted 13,286,000, came in higher than that. Again, it's hard on this budget for the capital because we have to forecast for basically 3 months ahead of time of where we think the project's gonna be, but you still did well. You came in at 13,756,000, which is $471,000 more than you thought. You look at total expenses. Remember, included in this capital is the facility that we bought, that you bought for the public safety and public works and fire and so on. That's down the road on Highway 90. So that's included in here, which was over $5 million of this particular amount. So total expenditures, 41,419,000 on the budget, spent 42,637,000, 1,218,000 above budget. You might say, wow, it's $1 million off, but it's on $42 million. It's 2.94%. So, and basically almost half of our $1.2 million is in the capital area, which is tough on 13 million to forecast where certain projects are gonna be on the expenditure cycle. So I'm very pleased, again, good job, Kristen, with this, well within tolerance, because remember, they allow you 5%, so you're basically halfway there at the 2.94. Excess or deficiency of revenues over expenditures, y'all had forecasted to have a deficiency because of the capital spending of $3.2 million. It came in at $4.3 million, a net of $1.1 million above what we thought. Other financing sources, you have some leases that we have to show it because of the total amount as like a proceeds coming in, as if you financed it, which you did, of $680,000. That's other financing sources. And then you have other revenues in the next category, which is mainly the interest on the utility debt and on the recreation debt, mainly recreation, $774,000. And you can see the excess. We had anticipated having a deficiency at the very bottom line item of 3.3 million. It came in $1 million more than that at 4.3 million. But again, not bad when you consider that the bulk of, or half of that is in the capital outlay area. And again, it seems like a lot, but on $42 million, it's not a big difference, so to speak. It's within tolerance. Any questions on this summary? This is a summary of everything, all the different funds that you have. You've seen it before. You can see that last year we showed a big surplus of 8.9 million because we recognized about 5 point some odd $1 million of ARPA monies. So that was the reason for that. But I'll show you what your actual surplus or deficiency. And if you want to flip to that, let's do that now. Let's go to page 3 of my handout. Page 3 of the handout is going to take the grant monies and we're going to deduct those from our deficiency. And any capital outlay that we spent, we're going to add that back so we can see what our operating surplus or deficiency is. And I'm happy to say you've got a surplus on every year presented. And you can see it starts with 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. And let's look at 24 because we just finished looking at this. It started with the deficit. Remember, we just looked at it, 4.3 million. But I'm going to have to deduct from that any grant proceeds that we got, state and LCG grant proceeds, and also any debt refinancing, which is the leases, 680. So I'm going to deduct from that another 3.7 million. Then if you look what I'm adding back the capital, which is the general fund has some capital, which is the facility down the road. And then also we had some street capital project funds of 6.8 million, a total of 13,756,000, which is what we just talked about. So I'm adding that back. So look at what your net operating surplus is. It's $5.7 million. What was it last year? Was 6.7 million. Year before that was 4.5 million. The year before that was 3.6, and the year before that was 948,000. So for the last 5 years, you've averaged every year $4.3 million of operating surplus. And I also have your budget numbers. We're forecasted in your current budget to have a surplus of about $3.5 million from an operational standpoint. Any questions on this? I think this basically brings it pretty much on an even playing field because you receive some grant monies and then you spend it the next year. So this kind of blends it all in together to make it, like I said, an even playing field when you take a look at it. Anyone has any questions on this? Okay, hearing none, this will be the final things that we want to look at. I just want to look at what's the health of the city of Broussard, based upon what we have in reserves. And I want to look at page 54, if you would, in the blue book. I'm just going to make a couple of analogies here, and then I'm going to show you what the number of days that you have available is. Okay, page 54 is what we call in business terms a balance sheet, but it's called a statement of position for a city. And you can see it's got the 24 numbers. We have the governmental activities, the business activities, which is the utility fund and the park fund activities, and then the totals. That's the total of all of the items for the city of Broussard for 24 and totals for 23. Let's just look at this. You have cash and interest-bearing deposits. Last year was 2.9 million, and then we have investments of $18 million. So we had basically $21 million when I add those two numbers. This year it went down to about $18 million because we had a surplus for the year, but we also spent a lot of money on capital, especially some of the monies that we spent down the road, which is from the ARPA monies that we had. So we have 18 million in cash. And of course, you have all the other items that are listed. You have receivables and other assets. Total assets of about 23 million in current assets. Last year was 25,790,000. The non-current assets, which is mainly based on the capital assets that you have here in the city, that's a total of $116 million. Total assets of everything included, cash and all the fixed assets, is $139 million for this city this year, as of June 30th of 24. Last year in 23, it was 132 million. Now, the debts of the city, look towards the bottom half of the page. The total current debts, which is due within 12 months, is 5.8 million last year, and is 6.5 billion for the current year. Then you have your non-current liabilities of another $40 million, which is your bonds and also any notes payable that you may have. And of course, you've got some pension liabilities, which those are state pension plans, but we have to show them on your books. We've already talked about that in the past. Total debts of the city of Broussard, $47,120,000. So if we wrote a check for $47 million, we'd get rid of all the debts, even including the debts of the basically the state for the pension plans. Last year was the same, $47 million. Now let's look at the net position. That's where I want to go with this, towards the bottom of the page, and it's made up of, we don't have 139 million in assets, and even if I subtracted the debts, we'd be still left with 90 million, 94 million. But we don't have 94 million in cash. As I pointed out, we only have about 18, because we've reinvested a net of about $72 million in capital assets. And so what I want to focus on is what you have is unrestricted, which is the 5.6 million. Everybody sees that. And also the restricted for sales tax. It's not debt service or anything like that. And also what we have for external legal constraint. That's the amount that we've agreed to set aside for the area in the St. Martin Parish. If everybody remembers that, there's a set aside in the sales tax. I think it's 50% of the amount collected in that area, and that's $1.9 million. So remember that, the 13 million, the 1.9 million, so we're up to about $15 million plus 5.6 million. That's what you have available. So we basically have, and let's look at page 4 of my handout, if you go to that, what we have available. Remember, we spent 43 million. I want to get to that. The 43 million was on what we just talked about, minus the capital spending. Without capital outlays, $29 million. On a daily basis, this city spent $81,000 every day of the year, 365 days. Last year spent $72,000. Unrestricted net position, which is made up of that 13 million, that $1.9 million, and that 5.6 million that we just talked about on page 54. That's what you have available. $20,975,000. I always like to look at it and say, do we have that in cash? You basically do. You have the 18 million, plus you have some other cash that's restricted, but it can be available for use of another 4 million. So you've got the $20 million available, 21. So that gives you days of operation, 258 days that you could operate this city without taking in a dime that you have available. It's liquid, and you could continue to operate this city. That's 258 days or 8 months. Last year, we were at 242 days, same 8 months. Year before that, we were at 136 days, 4.5 months. So, definitely an improvement overall for the city. Now, what I have down at the bottom is the general fund. Right below that dark line is the general fund. The general fund last year, we were spending about 13,598 without capital. That's 37,000 a day. This year, we spent 16,000. Remember I pointed out, especially in the public safety area and also in streets and drainage, we had some increases in expenditures there with the growth of the city. So we spent 16 million or 43,000 a day. Your unassigned fund balance was depleted because we used some of it to purchase that asset for the facility that we just talked about. 12 million last year, down to right at 6 million this year. So the general fund of the city of Broussard went from 323 days. We had 10.8 months. We're now down to 4.4 months. Still healthy. You should have at least 2 days, 60 days or 2 months. Let me say it that way. You have more than double that. So you're in good shape for the general fund. Many general funds are less than 60 days. Or right at about 60 days. So you're double what you need to be or what you should be. You always want it as high as possible, but we know why it went down, okay? Any questions on this? In summary, a very good report. Keep up what you were doing. You're watching your spending, but you are having to spend monies with the growth that you're incurring here in the city. So I would say just continue to do what we're doing, especially in utility operations. Continue to do what you're doing in the park with some steady growth, but it's steady. It's going to be consistent. So good report. And we'll be submitting this to Baton Rouge after the meeting here tonight. Thank you. Probably need a motion to accept the report. Tina, I don't know if you had that on there.
I'll make a motion to accept. Second. Question.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yay.
at large, District 1,
Yes.
motion approved.
Again, thank you all. We appreciate the
Thank you
business. It's
again,
always a
Bert.
pleasure to work with you, people here at the city and the administration as well. So thanks again. We appreciate it. Y'all have a great holiday.
Thank you, Bert, because the reason we don't have any questions is because you explain things so very.
I think y'all understand it.
Yes.
So that's good. I appreciate that, David.
Item 4.1 under resolutions, resolution number 821-24, a resolution amending the 2024-2025 operating budget of revenues and expenditures for Main Street improvements Phase 2A, 2B, and 2C, Claris Street to St. DePorus in the amount of $600,000. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second.
So, Joseph from DDG is here to give us an update on this project. This is a funding, resolution that Burton had suggested to simplify things. But Joseph has the project and he can talk about what the $600 entails. $600,000.
Sure thing, and slightly disappointed I don't get to sit down at the table. I was a little excited to do that, but if I can approach, I've got a couple of supplemental packets that's going to help with this conversation, plus the next 3 agenda items. Alrighty. 1 second. So, assuming I get as long as I can take, right? As long as I want, 3 minutes max, or more, or Burton's time here. All right. I guess one thing I want to know, this is the last council meeting for the year, so it's very exciting. Kind of a little milestone I'd like to acknowledge. Congratulations there. But as the mayor described, this item is to vote on amending the Phase 2 budget to accommodate the recently received bids on November 20th of this year. The bid tab is in the packet that I just submitted to you guys. So the bids being, I guess further down the agenda, we'll come to the vote to award the project to a low bidder, but right now we're just looking to amend the budget. That's right. So we did receive two bids, Southern Constructors and Glenn Leger. The high bid came in at $5,036,015, with the low bid being at $4,599,922, which was Southern Construction. Glenn Leger was a high bid. So it was a slightly higher bid than we had initially estimated prior to bidding, when we're going through the estimating process, 5% to be exact. So upon review, a couple of things that we took into consideration after we received them and we're reviewing them that we feel led to a higher amount. So that was the fact that downtown's a really tight corridor, they're really restricted, and the fact that everything's developed around it. Additionally, there's many unknowns, unfortunately, with it being so old, and many things are buried, utilities, to be specific. So nobody really knows until the contractor kind of starts to break ground. All things which are challenging kind of to plan or estimate as we're going through the budget. The budget approved is $4.5 million. So you can kind of compare that to the low bid. The difference in bid from high bid to low bid was about $436,000. So it's a nice change to see that low bid compared to the high bid. When you compare the low bid to our estimate, that comes to about $229,000 more when you look at the low bid to our estimate. So that's where I got that 5% number. All of which the increase to this, the budget request, the $600,000, that's coming from mainly, one, the bids coming back higher, but also part of the process, we've expanded the limits of the project to help make the project more complete, safer. Through conversations with the mayor, Public Works Director Mel, we incorporated milling and overlaying the entirety of Morgan from Main to Railroad. So that's going to help make it be more complete, help it to be safer. There's also on-street parking that's along that stretch, which is going to clean that up a lot. If you're over there, you'll notice. Additionally, the sidewalks will be removed and replaced on both sides of the road from Morgan to Railroad. But they're kind of broken, crumbling sidewalks. It doesn't feel right to do everything else and kind of leave the little spot out. That's also going to make the sidewalks ADA compliant, so accessible to folks with disabilities once construction is complete. Additionally, in talking with some landowners, some offered and gave permission to do additional improvements on their property. Originally, we didn't have the right to do that, so we didn't account for it. Come to find out, after everybody we got closer to the project, everybody started talking about it and got really excited. They wanted to kind of offer those things, so that gave us the ability to do more. That included more parking, more on-street parking, and additional tree lighting, all of which helped coincide with the master plan for Broussard. So in summary, the increased budget and the request for the amendment to the budget led to the tighter corridors, which is slower production, therefore driving up costs, unknowns in the field, leading to slower production with driving up costs, which was the increased, low bid or the increased bid, and then expanding the extent of the project down Morgan Street to Railroad, additional on-street parking, and additional tree lighting. That's it in a nutshell.
Let me ask you a question. Y'all have, you talked about North Morgan. How about South Morgan? A block off of Main Street is Madison. That intersection has bad drainage, goes over the road. We've tried to correct it, doing minimum work, but there were so many utilities there. I don't know if Walter would need to look at it, y'all could look at it in this project, but I'm requesting that y'all look at it.
David, we've already assigned that portion to Como Engineering.
Okay, well, I'm gonna request that you bring us a review of it.
Yeah, I believe the mayor wants to bring that up in January. It's something we had started working on a long time ago, and then we were just waiting for funding to take it forward. The mayor wants us to give a report in January. We'll blow the dust off it and give you guys an idea of what needs to be done. We can handle that.
Thank you.
So technically, the project South Morgan ends approximately where the dentist office is, Dr. Dar's office, like just above that, just north of that. Right, yep, so we're just short of that.
And we kind of use where the asphalt changes, it kind of as our guideline there, because the sidewalk changes in those same areas.
That's right.
You know, I mean, we had to pick a spot, so
There's a clean line on the asphalt. You can see it where we need to really mill and overlay up to, and that's why we use that as kind of like the delineator.
Tina, I do have public comment, almost forgot about that. 4-4, yep, that's where we at. So I have one card from Mr. Toby Omertar that says, I do not wish to address the council, but I support this proposal. And another card from Mr. Ryan LaGrange, he does not wish to address the council, but he supports this proposal. And from Mr. David Bernard, he does wish to address the council in support. So if you wouldn't mind pausing, Joseph, we'll take public comment.
Good evening. For those of you who know me, I don't have to introduce, but for those of you who don't, you know, if I'm at a council meeting, I'm gonna wanna speak. So, I reside with my wife at 130 Heartbeat Farm Road. I grew up just a few blocks from here at 202 East Main, which is the corner of Main and Washington. Main and Lee. And we own properties at 110 East Main, 207 East Main, and 211 East Main, which is 211 East Main is an old building on the National Registry. My wife and I both grew up here, spent all but 4 years of our lives living within about 1.25 miles of this very spot. So we know Broussard, we've seen it all from way back. I remember as a kid growing up and thinking we had the best sidewalk in the world because we didn't have any cracks in the sidewalks in front of our house. And I'm coming this way down the sidewalk, the old St. Julian home right up the street also had very nice sidewalks. We could ride our bikes, we could skate, we could do all these things. And as time went on, we learned that the parts of the town that had bad sidewalks, we memorized the cracks. So we knew where to jump, we knew where to slow down, we knew where to get back on the shoulder and get back on the sidewalk. So we see the town as we used to, and then we've experienced it all the way through, and we see the steady decline of the infrastructure in downtown Broussard. The streets are nice, it's still well paved, y'all maintain the streets and the shoulders and all, but everything else is just bad. It looks bad and it's bad to walk on. So I'm encouraging, and also I'm on behalf of I'm also a member of the Main Street Board. And so on behalf of them and all the property owners downtown, I think I speak for, is to highly encourage the acceptance of the bids that it is and move on with the project. We have a start at that side. We have a start at this side. Those two are going to be complete very soon. It's very nice coming into town. It would be a total travesty to say we're going to put the middle of town off. So let's complete the project, make Broussard what it should be and what I've always dreamed it should be, and accept the bids, authorize the mayor to sign the contract, and start construction. Thank you.
You'd be happy to know we're fixing those sidewalks in this project, so. You had sidewalks with no cracks, now we have cracks with barely any sidewalk today. I don't have any other public comment, any other, council discussion?
I agree with what David said.
We'll need a call for the question for the vote.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4.
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6.
Yay.
At large. District 1. Yes. District 2.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item 4.2, resolution number 822-24, resolution amending the 2024-2025 operating budget and revenues and expenditures for Main Street Improvement Phase 3A. St. DePorres to Albertsons Parkway in the amount of $200,000, but that Joseph has notified me that the number is less, but he'll give us an explanation of it. We shot a little high in the rush to get the agenda out earlier this.
Sometimes you shoot a little high. When you come in low, it feels good. So that is correct. So we're looking to amend the operating budget for Main Street Phase 3A, which is basically the section from St. DePorres which is the tracks to Albertson Parkway, the first phase of that, which was all the drainage, the relocation of 2nd Street. That was the bulk of it, utilities. So that is now essentially complete. They're already working on Phase 3B, which is what the council has awarded a contract a couple council meetings ago. So basically where we are with it is, so the initial budget was 2.1 million. We did have to amend that by only 89,000 once the low bid came in. Our actual current number right now, which it truly is 146,000, which is a little over $50,000 less than the 200. So that's what Mayor Ray was referring to about slightly over estimate. So truly, we only need 146,000. That's due to the increase. We're trying to do an administrative change order now that the project's complete. Contributing factors, unforeseen conditions. So one of those big things was 2nd Street. Some of you may know this, but we had to, as we relocated 2nd Street and we had to rebuild that new road section, the subgrade was pumping. So it's like really soft soils, wet soils. So we tried to mitigate that. We had to mitigate that. Typically what you do is you over excavate 2 or 3 feet, try to get to a nice stable ground. We did that and it was still pumping. So we had to come in and chemically treat that material with lime to really stiffen it up, which we did. And they were able to use that as a working table when we came up. So that was kind of an unforeseen deal that we encountered that caused one of these overruns, change orders. There were several drainage boxes we had to update/modify to avoid conflict. So as you remember, those ditches, big ugly ditches they were big, which meant we had big pipes. So it's hard to kind of fit that in the ground and cover it up. So we had to modify several of those to accommodate existing conditions. So that led to several custom boxes. Custom is extra, so we had to pay for that. Utility and drainage conflicts. So with the sewer, there's a big fiber bank that's been a thorn in our side from Iverson Parkway all the way to South Bernard, a big old duct bank of AT&T conduits So that upon some sewer, we had to do some conflict boxes, and that was additional, charges. So ultimately, with the administrative change order that we're trying to get approved, assuming this budget amendment gets approved, it equates to an extra $146,000 on the 3A project.
We didn't have a vote. I need a vote on it. Mhm. Yes. Mhm.
All right. I'll make a motion to amend resolution 822-24, to reduce it from 200,000 to 150,000.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yay.
At large? District 1? Yes. District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Item 4.3, resolution number 820-24, resolution approving substantial completion of Main Street Phase 3A. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
Question.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yay.
At large? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Our contract is here, Mr. Seth, and it's worth saying the work you're doing in Broussard on Main Street is excellent, Seth. But you had guys working out Thanksgiving Day. I passed there to go pick up my mom to come eat, and they were working on Thanksgiving Day. And when we asked you to kind of protect the road because of the Christmas parade, protect the sidewalks and the dangerous working areas, you did even better than that. You doubled down and you got the sidewalks past Arsenal Park before, the parade came through. So, and I know Broussard is close to your heart, and we're happy to be working with a contractor who does quality work like you. Absolutely. Item 4.4, resolution number 819-24, a resolution approving and awarding the low bid for Main Street Improvements Phase 2A, 2B, 2C projects, St. DePorus to Clara Street to Southern Constructors in the amount of $4,599,922. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
Question.
District 6?
Yay.
At large? District 1? Yes. District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Mayor, excuse me. I'm like Mr. Bernard here. I was born and raised about 4 blocks from here. And this project has been on my mind since I got on this council. And, I want to thank all y'all for spending the money on it. It's way overdue. We invested in the new part of town to get revenues 20 years ago. And now we got the money to do it, and I appreciate y'all all getting on board.
Ordinances for introduction. Item 5.1, ordinance number 24-818, an ordinance setting the city council meetings for the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, with the exception of the months of November and December, which will only have one meeting a month on the second Tuesday of the month. Do we have a motion to introduce?
Second.
And that is just putting in writing that we do not meet the week of Christmas or the week of Thanksgiving, basically in a nutshell. Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Council discussion?
Question.
At large? District 1? Yes. District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yay.
Motion approved.
Ordinances for adoption. Item 6.1, ordinance number 24-816, an ordinance amending the 2024-2025 operating budget and revenues and expenditures to increase authorized expenditures for water portion of the water sector program. Do we have a motion to adopt?
Second.
Tina, public comment?
No public comment.
Question.
District one? Yes. District two?
Yes.
District three?
Yes.
District four?
Yes.
District five?
Yes.
District six?
Yay.
At large? Motion approved.
Item 6.2, ordinance number 24-817, an ordinance amending the 2024-2025 operating budget of revenues and expenditures to increase authorized expenditures for the sewer portion of the water sector program. Do we have a motion to adopt?
I'll move. Second.
Tina, do you have public comment?
No public comment.
Question.
District two?
Yes.
District three?
Yes.
District four?
Yes.
District five?
Yeah.
District six?
Yes.
At large? District one? Yes. Motion approved.
Now we're gonna return, to a report by Mr. Craig Romero. We so rudely put him at the end of the meeting. Craig, thank you for your patience and kindness, to give us a report on the Port of Iberia. Welcome to Broussard.
Thank you all. I've got, good, good. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you all. I wanted to come by because this is nice to see you, Gerald. You made my day when I looked up and saw you. We go way back. I represent the Port of Iberia, been there 10 years, as you well know, and the Port of Iberia is your port. I mean, it's the biggest project at the port that we've been undertaking over the last 30 years is what they call the Acadiana to the Gulf of Mexico Access Channel. And I just want to come give a snapshot of what's going on at the port. You see, it's in the news a lot. There's a lot going on. We're very lucky. And I just wanted to, I'll run through these. I won't take near as long as your financial guy, trust me. I don't have that much detail. But everybody says, well, what does the port do for the area? Well, you just turn to page 2 and look at, we had to get some economic information to give to the Corps of Engineers to justify the use of state and federal monies to dig this channel. And over the last 6 years, we spent $126 million, all state of Louisiana money digging the channel. We're not finished yet. In April, we'll be finished with the whole 57 miles long. But if you look at this, talking about sales, the companies, they looked at 7 different companies at the port, and 7 out of the 50 that we have, and sales just in Iberia Parish of those 7 companies, $1.3 billion. And you look, Acadiana region, 1.7, and statewide, $2 billion. The jobs, 3,100 jobs from in Iberia Parish. Acadiana, about 4,500, and on and on. It's pretty impressive, and it does contribute to the Acadiana's economy. The next page, page 3, you look at a little pie chart. We operate 100% on self-generated money, all from lease revenue. We get no sales tax, no ad valorem tax. It's 100% off of revenue we generate. 66% of what we generate is from the land that we lease. We own about 1,500 acres, and it's all waterfront, and we lease it to people that create jobs. And we're not in business to make money. We're in business to create jobs, so we have a good quality of life in Broussard and beyond. If you look to the right, 10 years. 10 years ago, the capital asset value was $80 million. Today, it's $248 million in 10 years. There's a lot going on right now, and a lot of it's LNG related. I'll point that out. If you go to the next page, that's a Corps of Engineer snapshot of the channel project, 57 miles long. That red line is 57 miles long. The first segment where it starts at the Port of Iberia is about 10 miles. It makes it to the Intercoastal Waterway. And that project's been operating with the dredge for the last 2 years. That's the project itself. So I wasn't keeping up with the slides. This is the first one at the Port of Iberia. It's Crosby Dredging. It's an $18 million project, a total cost of $38 million. Now listen, $38 million was appropriated for this segment. Of the $38 million, $18 million was used to lower 8 pipelines before we could even start dredging. You've got to have a certain amount of cover on top of the pipeline to satisfy the Corps of Engineers because of an anchor dredge or a spud. So this dredge for $18 million, but the bulk of the 58 million, of the 38 million went to lowering pipelines. 18 million is for the dredging. Yeah. This is the dredge working on the interior of the port. And you see that long line that's floating, that's a flow line. This is a hydraulic dredge. And we have 1,000 acres of land. We negotiated with the McElhenney Company to dispose of the dredge material to create new wetlands, all beneficial use. The Corps of Engineers loves the concept and they put their arms around it and they're excited. This is the first segment of the 126 million that we're spending. We had to start right away because, as you well know, when you get a state appropriation in capital outlay, either you spend the money the year you get it or they take it and use it for another project. I spent 16 years over there. I took a lot of people's money when they didn't spend it. So we jumped on it and we used a bucket dredge and we spread this stuff about 6 foot thick and we started bulldozing it before we could get started, just so we start drawing down on the money. This is phase 2, freshwater bayou. In April of this year, the Port Commission awarded $21 million project from, at the top of this yellow line is Intracoastal City, and all the way down is to the Gulf of Mexico, down freshwater bayou. It's a $58 million appropriation. Of the 58 million, 21 million was for dredging. All of the rest of the money went to lower 13 pipelines, similar to the first segment. This is Orion Dredging out of Houston, Texas, who's dredging it. In May of 2025, you'll have a deep water channel to the Gulf of Mexico from the Port of Iberia. Yes. No. The last time the channel was dug in the Port of Iberia was 1955. So you might imagine what has happened with the surges and the storms that have come in. And it was in north wind in the wintertime, you had 9 to 10 feet of water in the Port Canal. You couldn't move much. And I'm gonna show you the activity that's come because of this, just the idea that we got the money to appropriate. This is the location of the disposal area. You gotta build these berms in the marsh, and we're creating new marsh and new wetlands on Vermilion Corporation property, which is all owned by Exxon but managed. That's freshwater bayou where the dredge is and the big deal. As a result of dredging, 4 of these 6 companies have come to the Port of Iberia in the last 5 years. Seadrill is out of Aberdeen, Scotland. They have 41 drill ships all over the world. Turner Industries is the largest petrochemical plant maintenance company in the country. They have 22,000 employees. They're based out of Baton Rouge, privately owned, an impressive company. 3 years ago, they came to the Port of Iberia, and they're building modules for the LNG plants. E-Crane is a company out of Belgium. Their corporate headquarters is in Belgium. The factory is in Poland, and they build electric cranes that operate all over the world. Those 3 companies, and then that last one I'll talk to you about, Global Risers, is out of Cape Town, South Africa. They're here because of Valaris and Broussard, Diamond Offshore in Koto, and Seadrill at the Port of Iberia. They maintain those drilling risers that connect the drill floor to the seabed floor. And then Chart has been at the port for 30 years. They build cold boxes. I'll get on that in a second. Bayou Pipe coats all the flow line pipe. They coated the Keystone XL pipeline at the Port of Iberia twice. When Bush started the project Keystone, he told them to go ahead and gave the permits. Then Obama became president. He shut it down for 8 years. That pipe stayed above ground, not installed, for 8 years. And then when Trump gets in, he says, go ahead, start again. So they started again. They went and inspect the pipe. None of the coating on the pipe was any good anymore. It was designed for direct burial, not for ultraviolet rays out in the weather. So they had to collect all that pipe all the way to Canada, bring it back to the Port of Iberia and recoat it. And then Bayou Pipe, I'll show you some of that. This is Seadrill's shore base. It's a 60-acre foreign trade zone. This is their worldwide supply store. It has bow thrusters in that building. That building is 96 feet tall, the one in the back of the picture. All the rig components are in that yard. If something breaks down at a rig somewhere in the world, and they operate on every continent on earth with their drill ships. This one is off of the coast of Spain. This is one of 20 somewhat drill ships that they have. Turner Industries, as I mentioned, 3 years ago, they came, pretty big announcement. They get up to about 500 employees on a regular basis. This is their big fab shop. This is their modular fabrication yard. This is one of their modules And today, you don't build plants and factories on location. They'll build it in modular fashion, put it on barges and transport it. This one went to Corpus Christi for an LNG plant over there. This is part of the Shell Appomattox project, some process modules that went off of the coast of New Orleans, about 150 miles into the Gulf. Shell Appomattox, you may remember. It's online now, producing about 200,000 barrels a day. It's huge. And it's being loaded onto the barge. That's a barge to the back of the self-ballasting barge. This right here is a loadout. This went to Shell Ben Franklin project in the state of Pennsylvania. They had 40 barges like this that went. They go down, get into the Mississippi River, go up into the Ohio River, into Pennsylvania. Today, the Ben Franklin LNG project is fully functional, processing all that gas up in Pennsylvania and those areas where they're doing a lot of fracking. This is just another component. Term that we're shipping out. Chart, as I said, has been here 30 years building heat exchangers is what they call them. If you Google Chart, and you're going to see 8 or 9 different Chart companies. They're in every type of energy you can think of. Anything that anybody has an idea, they're in it. They have a division that's in it. This is their original footprint. They had about 150 people working there for the first 25 years. When Russia invaded Ukraine, their business took off. They have a backlog of 7 to 10 years right now. They came to our office 3 years ago. They found this property across the canal from their original location and said, we want it. We have sent engineers in. We know what we need to do to retrofit this property for our use. So we need to build modules. Our orders are so big. Well, I said, well, let me get an engineer and start talking to you about what we need to do to publicly bid it. They said, no, you don't understand. We don't have time. Time is against us. We have determined it'll take $5 million to retrofit these buildings. We need to double the crane capacity in every one of the buildings you see in here. We need to take those 18-foot wide doors and build 50-foot wide doors. And I'm going to show you why. And they had to put a whole new electrical system as well. Entergy did not have enough power. They had to rent 10 1,000 kW generators for first 8 months, 3 years ago, to run all the welding machines to build these devices. There's so many welding machines. These are the heat exchangers. This is one of them enclosed, getting ready to be blasted and painted to be shipped out. This is the road leading to that property. This was about 1/4 mile long. We had to pipe all the ditches on the side in order to park. They thought they'd hire 150 people. They up to 450 people in that yard right now. This is the flow line pipe Bayou coast today, another LNG component. All the LNG plants are on the coast, like in Cameron and Plaquemine. And when you get to those areas, you've got to weight that pipe into the ground, because when you flow that natural gas through that pipeline, it gets light. It'll come out the ground if you don't have it weighted. The biggest part of Bayou Pipe's business today is this for the next 5 to 7 years. Coating, that's about 6 inches of concrete on the pipe. This is E-Crane, a company from Poland. They build electric cranes. They're going to spend about $5 million on their yard. This is what they build, electric cranes with a big counterweight on the back. And if you Google E-Crane, they've got a video. If you think of it, hit on that video. It's going to show you how they operate. It's really neat. And we're just lucky to have them here. The companies I'm showing you, none of them have signed less than a 30-year lease. This is a coastal restoration project with another E-Crane with a big grab to grab the big rocks to put along the coast. This is the workboat show. They've been coming to that for 20 years. This is the bulkhead we're building on $4 million that they'll be putting these big cranes together. They're putting the crane together right now that needs to be delivered for Cooper Consolidated. There's the name of the company on the Mississippi River. They have to deliver it by the last day of this year, or the company would pay $1 million in penalty. The machine is so big, when it's a clam bucket on the end of that machine, when that bucket closes, it holds 53 cubic yards. That's almost as big as this room. That's how big the crane is. And when they're going to finish it, we're going to have a big show and tell. We're going to invite all of y'all to come. We'd like y'all to come and see it. But I think that's it in a summary. That's everybody the pictures I wanted to show were the boats. If you look at Global Riser, they're just a high overview. But if you get to page 38, 39, These are boats that historically go to Port of Fourchon to offload drilling risers. These risers are 90 to 100 feet long, and these boats have always gone to Fourchon, and they unload them. One riser fits on an 18-wheeler. All you can put is one, and it has to be a stretch trailer, not a regular 18-wheeler, because they're so long. And you have to have an escort behind every one of those trucks. The last rig, this is a picture of the Port of Iberia he's unloading. This is a 300-foot vessel. This boat would have never come to the Port of Iberia if we wouldn't have dredged this channel. And Seadrill is here because of the deeper water. They come in directly from the rig that's out in the Gulf of Mexico, not going to Fourchon, coming straight to the Port of Iberia and offloading these risers, which is revolutionary. The last rig that they moved last month, they saved $300,000 just on escort services for that one rig. And you can look at the size of the boats. They would never float at the Port of Iberia. But it's a $126 million project, but it's making things happen at the port. And look, the last lease I signed is a company from Broussard, Offshore Energy Services. Leased 15 acres for 25 years. Roy Garber signed the lease. Not only did he lease the property, he went by 10 acres around the corner and opened a new wireline company. Cashmere Blue is the name of it. So Broussard's deeply involved in the Port of Iberia, as you well know. But thank y'all very much. If you have any questions, but I invite y'all anytime. We have an announcement it'll probably be before the end of this year. The governor can come make the announcement. I'm gonna invite all of y'all. It's another big company just like Turner from Baton Rouge that we've been negotiating with. And I'll let y'all know when that happens. Well, it's a whirlwind tour over the Port of Iberia, but that's in a snapshot. Thank you all very much.
All right. Just a reminder, we do have one event this Thursday, a fundraiser for the Valson Broussard House, which is the Maison Noël Holiday Home Tour. So a lot of our board members have been working on that for us. Millicent, I wanted to give her some kudos, but I think she left. I don't see her. Oh, she's hiding over there. Millicent, show yourself. She has worked very hard on this fundraiser, and she's doing a wonderful job as our tourism director. So if you're not doing anything Thursday night, tickets are $50. You'll get some food. You'll get some refreshments and all of that. We'd love to have you see Millicent if you're interested in tickets. This is the last meeting we'll have for December, so I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please drive safely, and I hope you get to spend some time with your loved ones. Thank you, Craig. Thank you.